She faked her visa, her startup, and her entire identity, then got caught.
What we see is we need to solve problems and we need to be customer first. What our brands care about is that they're making money and they're also rewarding customers every day.
She was 26 years old, a Turkish-born founder, a rising star in the startup world, the kind of person who shows up in Forbes lists and LinkedIn features, young, ambitious, building something from nothing, and in 2025, Forbes made it official. They put her on the 30 under 30 list for marketing and advertising. In an interview celebrating the award, Güven said the vetting process was exhilarating and humbling. Her company was called Kalder Inc. She told investors it was a fintech platform. She told them it had major partners.
And most importantly, creating what we call win-win-win situations. So your brand is winning when you swipe your card at the partner store. Partner store is winning because they now acquired a new customer cheaply. And lastly, the customer is winning because they just earned a reward.
She showed them financials. She showed them growth projections. She showed them a visa, the O1A, reserved for individuals of extraordinary ability, that said the United States government had officially recognized her talent. Investors believed her, and then federal prosecutors started looking more closely. The partners were fake, the financials were fabricated, and the visa support letters, the official documents that formed the foundation of her credibility in the United States, she had written them herself. Welcome to the Exposure Bureau. Today we're covering a case that goes beyond financial fraud into something more personal, and in many ways, more disturbing.
So I think in fintech and marketing, I want to say, is very much changing because marketers are now very much more analytical about their spend and ROI with customer acquisition raising. And we are seeing a shift where we need to see clear revenue opportunities from every marketing initiative.
This is the story of Gökçe Güven and Kalder Inc., a case involving securities fraud, wire fraud, visa fraud, and identity theft, and a form of deception that most people have never considered possible: forging your own immigration documents, fabricating the very credentials that gave you the right to be in the country where you were committing fraud. This is that story. The startup world and its blind spots. To understand how this scheme worked, you need to understand something about early-stage startup investing. At the seed and pre-seed level, where companies are raising their first rounds of funding, investors are often making decisions based on almost nothing. There is no revenue. There is no product-market fit. There are no years of financial history to audit. What investors are evaluating is the founder, their background, their credentials, their network, their vision, their ability to execute. This makes founder credibility the single most important asset in early fundraising, and it makes the early-stage investment world uniquely vulnerable to a specific type of fraud. Gökçe Güven arrived in the United States in 2018 on a student visa. When that visa neared expiration in 2025, she needed a new legal basis to stay in the country. So she caused Kalder to sponsor her for an O1A. The O1A is not a standard work visa. It is reserved for people who can prove, with documentation, expert letters, and a track record of recognized achievement, that they are among the best in their field. Think of it as the government saying, "We have independently reviewed this person's credentials, and they are exceptional." Getting one legitimately takes years of work and a strong paper trail. In the startup world, it is a signal of legitimacy. A founder with an O1A has been vetted, assessed, and recognized by the United States government as someone of exceptional talent. According to federal prosecutors, Güven's O1A was built on forged documents. The letters of support that formed the backbone of her visa application were allegedly written by Güven herself, falsely attributed to business executives who never wrote them, bearing forged signatures and submitted to immigration authorities as genuine. She didn't just fake her startup's credentials, She faked the government documentation that gave her permission to be in the country where she was committing fraud. Was presented to investors as a fintech marketing platform, a loyalty and rewards program that brands could use to monetize their customer relationships. In April 2024, Güven began raising Kalder's seed round, soliciting investments from dozens of venture capitalists. She showed them a pitch deck claiming 26 brands were actively using Kalder, with another 53 in a free tier. She told them annual recurring revenue had reached $1.2 million by March 2024 and was growing month over month. According to prosecutors, none of it was accurate. Some of the brands listed had only brief pilot agreements, typically at heavily discounted prices. Others had no agreement with Kalder whatsoever. And the revenue figures? Prosecutors say Güven maintained two sets of financial records, one reflecting what was actually happening, and one for investors. Internal records showed the company had generated roughly $60,000 in total revenue by April 2025. The pitch deck claimed $1.2 million. The total raised through these misrepresentations, approximately $7 million, from more than a dozen venture capital investors. The charges. She was arrested on November 27, 2025. The indictment had been filed 6 days earlier in the Southern District of New York. When federal prosecutors formally announced the charges on January 29, 2026, the indictment covered 4 distinct areas of criminal conduct: securities fraud, for the false picture painted to investors, fabricated financials, invented partnerships, inflated metrics; wire fraud, for the electronic communications used to carry out those misrepresentations; visa fraud, for the forged support letters submitted as part of her O1A application; and aggravated identity theft, perhaps the most personal charge of all. Because those forged letters didn't just carry false credentials, they carried real people's names, real identities, used without consent, submitted to the federal government as genuine endorsements. U.S. Attorney Jay Clayton put it plainly, Gökçe Güven built her seed round on fake revenue, inflated brand partnerships, and fabricated documents, and then used the same lies to secure a visa reserved for extraordinary ability. The guilty plea. On May 16, 2026, Gökçe Güven pleaded guilty to 1 count of securities fraud before U.S. Magistrate Judge Sarah Netburn in New York. As part of the plea, she agreed to forfeit nearly $7 million, the full amount raised from investors. She is scheduled to be sentenced on September 17, 2026, before U.S. District Judge Louis A. Kaplan. The Forbes 30 Under 30 honor, the O1A visa, the seed round. All of it built on documents she wrote herself. Why this case matters. $7 million is not a large number by the standards of financial fraud, but the architecture of this scheme is what makes it significant. Güven didn't just misrepresent her company. She misrepresented her legal right to be in the country. She misrepresented her recognition by an independent authority. She misrepresented the identities of real people to manufacture false credibility. And she built each layer to support the next, a constructed identity that looked from the outside exactly like a legitimate founder with real credentials and a real company. The fraud didn't start with the investor pitch. It started years earlier with the visa application. And it's a reminder that in early-stage investing, where gut instinct and founder credibility drive decisions, the most important thing to verify is the thing that seems most obviously true. Because the most carefully constructed frauds don't look like fraud. They look exactly like what you were hoping to find. This is the Exposure Bureau. Stay informed. Stay skeptical. And the next time someone's credentials seem almost too perfect, look a little closer.